the face you trusted for years. The expert who entered your living room every week. Rick Harrison, the charismatic star of Pawn Stars, who built an empire on knowledge, authenticity, and trust. But what if everything you thought you knew was a carefully constructed lie? In the early morning hours of April 2025, as FBI agents swarmed Rick Harrison's Las Vegas mansion, the world was about to discover a shocking truth that would shatter the image of one of television's most beloved personalities. What agents found behind those walls wasn't just evidence of financial misconduct, it was the command center of a global criminal network that spanned continents. This isn't speculation or clickbait. This is the disturbing reality now unfolding before our eyes. The man who taught America about history and antiques had a secret history of his own, one that involves human trafficking, money laundering, and ties to organized crime. The question isn't just how he did it, but how he hid it in plain sight for so long. Today, we take you inside the investigation that exposed one of the most shocking double lives in television history. For over a decade, millions of viewers welcomed Rick Harrison into their homes through their television screens. His straightforward demeanor, impressive knowledge of historical items, and seemingly honest business practices made him a household name. The gold and silver pawn shop became not just a successful business but a tourist destination, drawing fans from across the globe eager to catch a glimpse of the place they'd seen on TV. Harrison's journey to fame seemed like the quintessential American success story, a man who built something from nothing, whose expertise and personality catapulted him to international recognition. His books topped bestseller lists, his appearances drew crowds, and his business advice was sought by aspiring entrepreneurs. He was, by all appearances, the embodiment of honest success. But behind this carefully crafted public image, something disturbing was taking shape. The transformation wasn't sudden. Those close to Harrison began noticing subtle changes around 2016. Former employees report that Rick's behavior shifted. He became more secretive, more controlling. The once relaxed work environment at the pawn shop grew tense. Staff members were required to sign stricter non-disclosure agreements. Rick spent less time on the shop floor and more time behind closed doors in private meetings. Even in interviews, the change was noticeable. His natural charm seemed more calculated, his friendly demeanor more rehearsed. At the time, these changes were attributed to the pressures of fame and the demands of maintaining a business empire. In retrospect, they were the first visible cracks in a facade that was beginning to crumble. He wasn't the same person anymore, recalls a former employee who worked at the pawn shop for 6 years. There was always this tension, like he was constantly watching over his shoulder. The Rick from the early days of the show would chat with everyone, spend hours examining interesting items that came into the shop. But this new Rick, he was distant, always on his phone with these hushed conversations. When customers asked to meet him, he'd often refuse unless there were cameras around. What no one realized then was that Rick Harrison was constructing a double life, one that leveraged his fame and respected position to conceal activities that would have been unimaginable to his fans. The FBI investigation has revealed that Harrison wasn't just a pawn shop owner with a television show. He was the mastermind behind an intricate web of criminal enterprises. When federal agents executed their search warrant on Harrison's mansion in early April, they discovered evidence far more disturbing than anyone could have anticipated. Hidden beneath his sprawling Las Vegas property was a sophisticated command center, complete with surveillance equipment, multiple encrypted hard drives, and even a holding cell that showed signs of recent use. Documents seized from the residence detailed international payments, shell companies, and coded communications that pointed to a criminal operation, extending far beyond American borders. The agents who participated in the raid described a scene that seemed more fitting for a crime kingpin than a television personality. The basement of Harrison's mansion had been converted into what investigators called an operational hub, with multiple computer stations, secure communication equipment, and walls covered with maps marking locations across the globe. There were multiple passports under different names but featuring Harrison's photo, suggesting he traveled internationally under various identities. Perhaps most chilling was a secured room that appeared to have been used to hold people against their will, complete with reinforced doors, no interior handles, and evidence suggesting recent occupancy. The financial aspects of Harrison's hidden empire are staggering in their complexity. Investigators have identified at least 17 different limited liability companies connected to Harrison, spread across 6 states and 3 foreign countries. Many of these companies appear to exist solely on paper registered at non-existent addresses with no employees or visible assets. Their purpose was clear: to obscure the movement of money and resources. Over just 16 months, approximately $3.4 million flowed through accounts linked to these shell companies, with connections to industries involved in human trafficking and money laundering. The transactions followed patterns that match known criminal organizations, using Harrison's legitimate business interests as cover for illicit activities. The pawn shop that America loved wasn't just selling antiques and collectibles, it was potentially part of a sophisticated money laundering operation. What makes this case unique is the level of complexity, explains former FBI financial crimes specialist Sarah Layton. We often see criminal organizations using legitimate businesses as fronts, but rarely with this degree of sophistication, and rarely with someone so publicly visible at the center. Harrison didn't just create a shell company or two. He built an entire shadow financial system that operated parallel to his public business interests. The level of compartmentalization suggests someone who understood exactly how to hide money from authorities. But the financial crimes were only the beginning. Perhaps the most disturbing discovery was the evidence linking Harrison to human trafficking operations. FBI agents recovered encrypted hard drives containing spreadsheets and communication threads that detailed the movement of people across borders. These weren't just business transactions, they were records of human exploitation, with Harrison apparently playing a central role in coordinating these activities. His network extended to notorious figures in the criminal underworld, including Eduardo Eluma Ramirez, a suspected leader of a human trafficking route from Baja California to Nevada. The documents suggest that Harrison's wealth and fame provided the perfect cover for these operations, allowing him to move between legitimate business circles and criminal enterprises with ease. The victims of these operations remain largely unidentified, though investigators believe many were vulnerable individuals from economically disadvantaged regions who were promised legitimate work opportunities in the United States. Once here, their documentation was confiscated, and they were forced into labor or sexual exploitation. The FBI has established a dedicated task force to identify and assist these victims, many of whom may still be in dangerous situations across the country. This humanitarian aspect of the case has added urgency to the ongoing investigation, with agents working around the clock to dismantle what remains of the network. The global reach of Harrison's network is equally shocking. Transactions traced by the FBI linked his shell companies to operations in Prague, Bangkok, and Tana, creating a network that spanned multiple continents. Each transaction was carefully disguised, often passing through several intermediaries before reaching its final destination. The communications recovered from Harrison's devices used coded language and encrypted channels, demonstrating a level of sophistication that speaks to years of careful planning and execution. This wasn't an amateur operation, or a businessman who made a few bad decisions. This was a calculated criminal enterprise with Harrison at its center. The international connections have complicated the investigation, requiring cooperation from law enforcement agencies across multiple countries. Sources close to the investigation suggest that Harrison may have leveraged his celebrity status to establish connections with corrupt officials in certain regions, further facilitating his illicit operations. His frequent international travel, ostensibly for antique hunting or business expansion, is now being re-examined in light of these revelations. Each trip potentially represents another link in a chain of criminal activities that circled the globe. The question that continues to haunt investigators and the public alike is how someone so visible could have concealed such activities for so long. The answer lies partly in Harrison's careful cultivation of his public image. As a television personality, he projected knowledge, honesty, and a straightforward approach to business. The show Pawn Stars presented him as an expert in historical artifacts, someone who valued authenticity above all else. This carefully crafted persona created a shield of credibility that made allegations against him seem unbelievable. Who would suspect that a man who entered millions of homes every week through their television screens could be involved in criminal activities of this magnitude? This is the perfect example of hiding in plain sight, notes criminologist Dr. Vanessa Chen. Harrison created such a strong public persona of honesty and expertise that it effectively served as camouflage for his other activities. People are naturally resistant to contradictions in their established beliefs. If you know someone is honest because you've watched them for years on television, you'll dismiss evidence to the contrary. Harrison exploited this psychological tendency masterfully. The fallout from these revelations has been immediate and far-reaching. The History Channel suspended Pawn Stars indefinitely as the investigation continues. The gold and silver pawn shop, once a thriving tourist attraction, now faces an uncertain future. Fans have expressed shock and disbelief on social media, struggling to reconcile the Rick Harrison they thought they knew with the man at the center of these allegations. Beyond the immediate shock, there are broader implications for the entertainment industry and reality television. How many other public figures might be hiding similarly dark secrets behind carefully managed public personas? As the legal process unfolds, Harrison faces severe charges, including money laundering, human trafficking, and conspiracy. If convicted, these charges could result in significant prison time. Federal authorities are determined to dismantle not just Harrison's personal operations, but the entire network he allegedly helped to build and maintain. This case has quickly gained national attention, with legal experts weighing in on the potential outcomes and the broader implications for similar investigations. For those who worked closely with Harrison over the years, the revelations have forced a painful re-evaluation of their experiences. Former employees now look back on his increasing secrecy and changes in behavior with new understanding. Interactions that seemed merely odd at the time now appear suspicious in retrospect. The non-disclosure agreements that became stricter over time, the private meetings, the gradual withdrawal from public-facing aspects of the business, all now seem like pieces of a puzzle that no one recognized until it was too late. There were moments that didn't make sense, admits a former production crew member who worked on Pawn Stars for several seasons. Like when he would abruptly cancel filming days with no explanation, or when certain areas of the property suddenly became off-limits to the crew. We just chalked it up to celebrity eccentricity. Now I wonder what was really happening on those days, who was coming and going when the cameras weren't there. The investigation continues to develop, with new details emerging regularly. Federal agents are still tracing the full extent of Harrison's network, identifying accomplices and untangling the complex web of financial transactions that supported these operations. While much remains unknown, what has already been revealed paints a disturbing picture of deception on a massive scale. The man who built his reputation on authenticity and transparency appears to have been living a life defined by secrecy and exploitation. As this story continues to unfold, it serves as a powerful reminder that appearances can be deceiving. In an age where media personalities invite us into their lives and businesses, it's easy to feel we know them. Rick Harrison welcomed America into his pawn shop, shared his knowledge, and built a relationship with millions of viewers. That relationship was built on trust that what we were seeing reflected reality. The allegations against Harrison shatter that trust and force us to question how well we can truly know the public figures we invite into our homes. This isn't just about one man or one television show. It's about the masks we all wear and the facades we construct. It's about the gap between public perception and private reality. Most importantly, it's about the victims, those who may have suffered while a criminal network operated behind the shield of fame and respectability. As we follow this case, let's remember that behind the sensational headlines are real people whose lives have been forever altered by these events. The truth is still emerging, but one thing is clear: the Rick Harrison story will go down as one of the most shocking falls from grace in television history. A reminder that sometimes, the most dangerous deceptions are the ones that happen right before our eyes. The investigation continues, and with it, our understanding of just how deep this darkness goes. For Rick Harrison, the game of pawns is over, and the consequences are only beginning. If this story teaches us anything, it's that we must look beyond the carefully curated images presented to us, and question what lies beneath. In a world increasingly dominated by personal brands and curated social media presences, the line between authenticity and performance grows blurrier every day. The next time you feel you know a public figure, remember Rick Harrison, the man America thought it knew, until the FBI knocked on his door and revealed the shocking truth. The most valuable artifacts in his collection weren't the historical treasures he displayed on television. They were the secrets he kept hidden from the world. And as those secrets come to light, we're all left to wonder, if we could be so wrong about someone we watched for years, what else might we be missing? Subscribe for continued coverage as this story develops. And remember, sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most painful revelations.